2, they locked him in with the feral alien girl. Days later, she was asleep on his chest. The door sealed behind him with a sound like a coffin lid dropping. No handle on the inside. To no window. No way out. To Corporal Danny Voss stood in the middle of the containment cell and did not move. The air smelled like scorched metal and something older, something wild, the way deep forest smells after lightning hits it. 2. The lights overhead pulsed a sickly blue, not white. 2. Blue, because white, apparently, made her attack the walls. 2. She was in the corner, pressed into it like the corner itself had agreed to hide her. 2. Danny had read the file. Everybody on the station had read the file. 2. Species designation, unknown. Origin, debris field, Sector 9. 2. Physical classification, bipedal, approximately 1.7 meters, 4-fingered, bioluminescent patches along neck and collarbone that flared when agitated. Threat level, extreme. To 14 personnel injured during initial containment. 3 observation drones destroyed. 2. 1 linguist hospitalized after attempting direct contact through the glass. The file called her feral. 2. The file did not mention that she was watching him the way a chess player watches a board. Danny sat down on the floor. 2. Not in a chair. Not standing against the wall like a guard. 2. He folded himself down cross-legged right in the center of the room and set his hands on his knees and looked at the ceiling. He heard her move to a scrape of claws on the floor. 4 sharp points, the sound of something careful trying to be invisible. She had stopped. 2. She was looking at him from a new angle. He kept looking at the ceiling. 2. This was not the plan command had given him. The plan had been observe. 2. Document. Do not engage. 2. They had been very specific about the do not engage part. They had also been very specific about what happened to the last 4 people they sent in. 2. Danny had listened to the briefing with both hands flat on the table and a feeling in his chest like swallowing a stone. He had volunteered anyway, not because he was brave. People kept saying that about him and it made him tired. He had volunteered because something in the footage had pulled at him in a way he could not explain to anyone, including himself. 2. The footage of her, not the attacks, not the snarling, not the incredible, terrifying speed of her when she moved, but the 3 seconds of footage between incidents when she sat alone in the corner and pressed both 4-fingered hands flat against the floor and tilted her head up and appeared for all of 3 seconds. To be listening for something she could not find. That image had sat in his chest for 2 weeks before he put his name on the volunteer list. He did not look at her. 2. He looked at the ceiling and breathed in through his nose and out through his mouth, slow and even, the way his grandfather had taught him to breathe when everything was bad and getting worse. She moved again, closer this time. The scrape of claws was deliberate now, not sneaking. She wanted him to hear it, a warning maybe, or a test. He did not react. 2. The blue lights pulsed. Somewhere beyond the sealed door he knew there were 6 people watching screens. Captain Lorraine Cole, who had approved his plan with her arms crossed and her mouth in a flat line. 2. Pete Harmon, who had tried to talk him out of it for 40 minutes. Specialist Kim Vu, who had just looked at him and said nothing, which had been somehow the most frightening response of all. He did not think about them. He thought about his breathing. 2. She was close enough now that he could smell her. Not unpleasant, nothing like he expected. Something dry and electric, like air before a storm. He heard her exhale. A short, hard sound. Not a growl. A sound like a question that had run out of patience. 2. He slowly, without looking at her, slid his hand into his jacket pocket and pulled out a protein bar. 2. The kind his sister mailed him from back home. The ones with the oats and the dark chocolate, sealed in crinkly orange wrappers that made too much noise when you opened them. He set it on the floor in front of him. 2. He did not push it toward her. He set it down and moved his hand back to his knee. 2. Silence. The bar sat there under the blue lights. 2. Her breathing changed. He could hear it. She was close enough that he could hear it, which meant she was closer than the cameras had picked up, which meant she moved faster and quieter than anyone had documented. 2. He looked at the ceiling and thought about nothing. 2. He did not look. He just heard the faint crinkle of the wrapper being investigated, then a sound that might have been her teeth meeting the chocolate. Cautious, testing, then nothing. 2. She had retreated to her corner. The wrapper went with her. 2. Across the room, against the far wall, Danny Voss breathed and waited. The door did not open. 2. It would not open for 4 more days. 2. Outside the cell, Dr. Pete Harmon stared at the feed and said, very quietly, "What is he doing?" 2. Captain Cole watched the corner of the screen where a bioluminescent patch at the alien's throat flickered from red to something approaching amber, the first color shift away from the aggression spectrum they had recorded in 11 days. 2. But don't touch that door. The second day, she stole his boot. 2. Danny had taken both boots off to sleep, not because he was comfortable, because no sane person could be comfortable on a containment floor, but because comfort was not the point. He had read once that humans sleeping unguarded in an enclosed space was one of the most powerful signals of non-threat in social mammals. 2. He had no idea if the same principle applied to whatever she was. He had decided to find out. 2. The floor was cold and the blue lights never fully dimmed, and once, around what his internal clock estimated was 3 in the morning, he woke to the absolute certainty that something was very close to his face. He did not open his eyes. 2. He kept breathing. The thing moved away. 2. In the morning, if it could be called morning, one boot was gone. He put on the remaining boot, sat up, and looked at her corner. 2. She was in it, watching him, with the boot held in both hands the way a child holds something new and confusing. She was turning it. 2. Examining it. She held it up to her face and pressed one nostril against the leather and inhaled. 2. Her bioluminescent patches, which had been a nervous greenish white since he arrived, flickered, something cycling through them too fast to track. 2. Then settled back to greenish white. Danny said very calmly, "You can keep it if you want." 2. She went very still. He pulled a meal pack from his bag. He had been allowed 6 days of supplies, which said something about how long Command thought he might last, and began eating. 2. He did not look at her again. She kept the boot all day. 2. By evening, she had taken the other one. He ate his dinner barefoot and thought privately that this was going well. 2. On the screens outside, Kim Vu was running a language analysis on every sound the alien had made in Danny's presence versus every sound she had made in the 11 days prior. The results were on Kim's third monitor, scrolling in columns of data that Kim had not yet shown Pete or Cole, because Kim was still staring at one particular line of the output. 2. She had not been making random sounds when Danny arrived. She had been making the same 4 sounds, cycling over and over. 2. The translation matrix had no match for them, but the pattern was unambiguous. 2. She had been asking a question. 2. 11 days. Uninterrupted. 2. And on the recording from 2 hours ago, after Danny said you can keep it if you want, she had stopped. 2. Not in any language the translation matrix could parse. Not in any language Danny recognized. 2. But it was speech. He was certain of it the moment he heard it. The shape of it. 2. The way it changed based on what he did. She had been watching him sort his meal packs by what appeared to be a system of preference, arranging them in a line from what he would eat first to what he would eat last, and she made a sound that had the exact quality of a question. 2. He looked up. First time he had looked directly at her since the door sealed. 2. She was standing 3 feet away. To not pressed to the wall. Standing, fully upright, with his boots in her arms like she had forgotten she was holding them, and her bioluminescent patches running a color he had not seen yet, a deep, slow gold, cycling gently at her collarbone. 2. Her eyes, which the file had called amber, were not amber. They were amber the way sunset is amber. Layered, backlit. Nothing like the flat word. 2. She made the sound again. 2. He picked up the one he would eat last. He held it out. 2. She took it. The patches flared gold, bright, and fast, then settled. 2. She sat down. 3 feet away. 2. And turned the meal pack over in her hands with the same methodical attention she had given the boot. Danny watched her and felt the stone in his chest, the one that had been there since the briefing, since the file, since 14 injured personnel and 1 hospitalized linguist. Go somewhere quieter. 2. Not gone. Quieter. 2. Outside, Pete Harmon had his head in both hands. Cole had one hand pressed flat against the observation glass. 2. The gold, Pete said, voice barely above a murmur. 2. He pulled up the bioluminescent spectrum chart from the initial observation period. Gold was not on it. 2. Cole looked at him. 2. He looked back at her. They both looked at the feed, where Danny Voss and the alien girl sat 3 feet apart on a containment floor, and she was showing him how she had figured out the meal pack seal. 2. She had figured it out faster than most new recruits, Pete thought, and did not say. 4th day, he woke up with her sitting beside him. 2. Not touching, not close enough to touch. 2. But beside him, legs folded under her in a way that looked like it would destroy a human knee but seemed natural for her, watching the wall like it owed her something. He lay there and did not move and tried to think about what to do. 2. She turned her head and looked at him. Gold. 2. He thought about his sister's protein bars. He had 2 left. 2. He pulled one from his jacket pocket and held it out, and she took it and tore the wrapper off with her teeth and ate the whole thing in 4 bites, and then held the orange wrapper up and examined it the way she had examined everything he owned. She kept the wrapper. 2. He ate the other bar slowly. She watched him eat it and made 3 sounds in sequence. 2. He repeated them back. 2. He knew they were badly reproduced. His mouth was not built for whatever her phonology required, but he tried. Her patches went gold so fast it looked like a lamp switching on. 2. She made the sounds again.
He tried again.
2. She made a sound he had not heard before, something short and sharp and high, and looked away, and he thought maybe he had offended her or done something wrong. Then her shoulders moved. 2. She had one hand pressed over her mouth. 4 fingers, the extra joint that folded in a direction human fingers did not, and her shoulders were absolutely shaking. She was laughing. 2. She was laughing at his pronunciation, and she was trying to hide it, and she was doing a genuinely terrible job. Danny Voss put his face in his hands and started laughing too, and for a moment the containment cell was just 2 people failing to communicate and finding it funny, which was perhaps the most human thing in the universe, regardless of who was doing it. 2. Outside, Pete Harmon did not even try to be professional about it. He sat back in his chair and pressed both hands to his face and said something that was not a proper word. 2. Cole was writing in her report. She crossed out 3 sentences. 2. Started over. She wrote, Day 4. 2. Significant development. Recommend extending contact window indefinitely. 2. Day 5 started with her asleep. She had at some point in the night shifted from sitting to lying down, and she had shifted closer, and she had Danny could see this clearly because he had woken facing her. She had reached out in her sleep and closed one 4-fingered hand around his forearm. 2. Not gripping, just holding. 2. The way you hold something you are not sure will still be there in the morning. 2. Outside, Kim Vu looked at the overnight feed timestamp and made a note. The motion toward him had happened at 0347 station time. 2. 43 minutes after the lights had gone to their lowest dim setting, not random sleep movement. 2. She had been awake. She had been awake, and she had chosen. 2. Danny looked at the ceiling. Her hand on his forearm was warm, warmer than human. The bioluminescent patches dim and slow at this hour. A color so deep it was almost blue. 2. Resting color, sleep color. 2. He did not move. 2. 14 injured, 1 hospitalized, feral, extreme threat. He thought about 3 seconds of footage, hands flat on the floor, listening for something she could not find. 2. He thought about gold. 2. When the door finally opened at hour 96, Coley's voice through the intercom. Voss, we're opening up, stand by. She was asleep on his chest, not his forearm. 2. Sometime in the hours between 0347 and the door, she had shifted fully, and her head was on his chest with both hands folded under her chin, and her patches were running that deep resting blue, and she was asleep the way things sleep when they have decided finally that something in the world is safe. 2. He did not move. Coley's voice again, quieter. 2. Boss. Give me a minute, he said. 2. Silence from the intercom. Silence from the intercom. He looked at the ceiling. 2. Outside the door, 6 people were watching a screen. He knew that. 2. He did not care. He lay on the containment floor and looked at the ceiling and breathed in through his nose and out through his mouth, slow and even. 2. She stirred, not waking. 2. Just settling. A sound in her chest that was not quite a word, not quite nothing. 2. Cole let him have his minute. She let him have several. 2. The debrief took 4 hours, and Danny answered every question carefully and truthfully and was only lying about one thing, which was when Pete asked him, at what point did you stop being afraid? 2. Danny looked at the table between them and thought about her hands flat on the floor of the cell. 11 days of asking the same question, the thing she had been asking before he arrived, the thing she had stopped asking after he said you can keep it if you want. I don't know, he said, which was not a lie, exactly, because the truth was more complicated than a point on a timeline. 2. The truth was that he had stopped being afraid sometime between the boot and the pronunciation lesson and the laugh she had tried to hide. The truth was he was not sure afraid was the right word for what he had been to begin with. 2. Cole watched Danny from across the table with her arms folded and the look she wore when she was deciding something. She won't let anyone else in the cell, Cole said. 2. Danny looked up. We've tried twice this morning. 2. She went straight to the threat display. Full red. 2. We pulled back. Cole paused. 2. She looked at the door the whole time. After we pulled back, she went to the spot on the floor where you were sleeping. 2. The stone in Danny's chest did something he could not name. Okay, he said. 2. That's not a normal response, Pete said. I know. 2. What did you do in there? Danny thought about it. He thought about it the way you think about something that you watched happen to you rather than something you planned. 2. Nothing, he said. I didn't treat her like she was what the file said she was. 2. Pete wrote that down. Cole did not write anything. She looked at him with that deciding something expression until Danny felt the back of his neck go warm. She has a name, Cole said. 2. We got it this morning. Kim cracked the language pattern. 2. It comes out approximately as... Cole looked at her notes. Something like veil. Veil. 2. He said it in his head 3 times. Not to memorize it. 2. Because it fit in a way that made sense. In the same way that the gold fit, in the same way that the laugh fit. She's asking for you again, Cole said. To same 4 sounds. Cycling. 2, Danny stood up. He did not ask permission. 2, He was technically supposed to wait for the debrief to conclude and complete a medical evaluation and sign 3 forms. Danny, Cole said. 2, I know, he said. I'll sign the forms after. 2, Behind him, Pete said something under his breath that Danny did not hear, and Cole said nothing at all, and the door to the debrief room opened and Danny walked down the hall toward the containment wing and the 4 sounds that had been cycling since the morning door. The same question, patient and relentless. The containment door was already open when he got there. 2. She was in the center of the room, not the corner. 2. The center Upright, patches running that deep cycling gold, both hands still, watching the door. She stopped asking when she saw him. Danny Voss walked in. The door stayed open this time.